to another video, and today I want to get started with, I do very much apologize for not uploading on Wednesday. I am getting over a little bit of a cold right now, so I really wanted to upload that day, but I was just like, I'm just not feeling it right now, and I'm still kind of getting over it right now, so if my voice kind of goes in and out a little bit, my throat still kind of hurts a little bit, but I'm going to power through this just so I can get this video out for you guys. But yeah, so today we are going to be doing another Boulet Brothers Dragula Titans Season 2 review and recap. So we're going to be going on to episode 2, and it is their Monsters of Rock challenge. So the episode starts with the Boulets doing their little monologue and just kind of talking about the previous events from last episode, and then we move on to the ghouls in a van. They're like in two different vans, and they are talking about like, oh, like the Boulets were going to are taking us on like site, and they are like kind of showing us like, oh, here is just like they're just like, oh my god, like where are we going? And then Sigourney was not having a good time. She was very much having a lot of motion sickness. But then they get onto this location in the middle of the desert. They're in like this kind of like desert, like oasis city type of situation. They were told to get into like their best desert, kind of desert punky kind of look. And all the ghouls reconvene with each other, and they just start talking about like, oh, who's gonna go home? And they talk about like, they kind of first start saying like, oh, Bora definitely isn't going home. They had like some of the best critiques out of everyone in the challenge from last episode, so they definitely think Bora is not gonna go home, even though Blackberry was like, I kind of wish Bora would go home, because I guess because of Bora's like whole like quote unquote like self-defeating demeanor from last episode. Then they talk about Dahlia, and Dahlia, they are hoping Dahlia are going home, especially Jade and Priscilla, because Dahlia has been really ruffling a lot of feathers with a lot of the cast so far, and definitely a lot of them think like Dahlia was probably one of the worst in the challenge. And then they kind of then they start talking about, mostly Jaharia talks about like, oh, they felt terrible for putting Cynthia up for extermination, even though it was really hard because like they were both Blackberry and Jaharia were in the top, and JK did a whole lot for the challenge last episode, so they really could not like pick anyone else besides Cynthia. And then they kind of keep talking, and they say like, it's probably going to be Frankie, because Frankie, out of the four of them, was kind of the quietest out of all of them. Definitely, I agree. I was sad to see Frankie because Frankie's probably was one of my faves when I saw the cast, so I was really excited to see them. But unfortunately, because they aren't as high energy as the other three, they were just like not the greatest out of all of them. And then next, all the rest of the other ghouls come back. So we got Dahlia, Cynthia, and Bora all coming back, so that means Frankie unfortunately was exterminated, which was kind of weird because we didn't see like any kind of extermination or gets into the ghostly gallows. The exterminations are really weird this season. I'll talk about that later. But yeah. Then let's see. And then after after talking about like the bungee jumping and stuff like that, like Dahlia was talking about how like they almost hit like the bottom of the bridge and stuff like that, and then I just realized like I am not going bungee jumping. It was just, it's not something I like to do. I'm not very much of a thrill seeker type of person. I'm very much like a stay at home enjoy myself type of person. And then Cynthia is extremely bitter against Blackberry and Jaharia. A lot towards Blackberry, some towards Jaharia, but none towards JK. And Cynthia was just like, oh, like, why did you put me up for extermination? And Jaharia was like, we had like no one else to pick from. And Blackberry was trying to insert themselves in the conversation, saying like, we had nowhere else really to pick from. And then Blackberry was like, well, I wanted to pick you in the first place. I picked your name twice because they picked their names first off in the challenge, and then Jaharia picked JK. And it was like, yeah, like, I agree, kind of, like, who else were you gonna put? Like, JK was the other pick, but JK did, like, contributed a lot more to the challenge than Cynthia did. And then Cynthia was also bitter mostly towards Jaharia, because Jaharia pinky promised towards Cynthia by not picking her in the challenge, not picking her in the elimination. And then they asked the question, oh, is pinky promise like a sacred thing? Like, I want to ask you guys that question too. Like, do you guys think a pinky promise is like a legally binding thing? Like, do you have to follow through with a pinky promise, even if you're like something really crazy is at stake? Because like Cynthia was like taking it really, really personal, especially with the pinky promise that she made towards Jaharia. It was just like, girl, it's a pinky promise. Like, it's a competition. You have to pick someone. Someone has to go home. Someone has to be put up for extermination. You can't really fault anyone for that. Like, yeah, you could be upset in the moment, but you're still here. Like, what are you gonna do about that? Alright. And then next up, the ghouls, they separate and they explore what is called Neotropolis, which is like this cyberpunky desert. It's very much like cyberpunk mixed with like Dune, and it was like really cool. Like, they separate into groups. They like go to this like bar area, and Jade was talking about like, oh, like there was like joking about like, oh, Dahlia calling them like basically kind of like drunks and stuff like that. And it was kind of funny, but then also they had their own bring your own cup policy. Like, how are you supposed to know that? And then Jade had like her drink in like a cut up plastic bottle, which I thought was also kind of funny. And then they all start discussing in groups. So Abora first calls out Dahlia for being extremely uninspiring, especially for them. They say that Dahlia to them is a very uninspiring, and their drag isn't very like interesting compared to the rest of them. And then they smack talk Dahlia a lot, and then Dahlia feels very attacked after being like confronted in the cauldron a lot. And then Jade overall does not trust Dahlia, especially a lot of them. Yeah, and everyone in like Jade's group do not like mess with Dahlia like at all. And then Cynthia talks about like, oh, like she does not have any ill will towards JK because JK picked her outright, even though Blackberry also did that. But Cynthia for the first time actually likes JK, which, because if you watched last season 5, you knew that Cynthia and JK were not the best of friends in that season. And then Sigourney is really relieved to not bungee jump, and Zavaleta, they were talking about how Sigourney was talking about how like Zavaleta was an easy target, and not really understanding like, saying like Eva basically wasted a vote because Zavaleta, like, not even argue, like objectively did probably the worst in the challenge look wise. Like, maybe their like choreography was good, but like the look was just not there. So they don't like, Sigourney doesn't really understand why, still doesn't really understand why Eva did that in the first place. And then like Eva was kind of talking about like, oh, like I really want to show that like I have grit, I have claws when it comes to the competition. Like I am ready to like play with the big guns and stuff like that. And then Cynthia talks about having like, oh, she has a really big target towards Blackberry, and how like she just does not mess with Blackberry anymore. She thought Blackberry was like her friend and her like ally in this competition, but obviously not. And then the ghouls, they reconvene in this tent, and the Boulets present them with this challenge, which is the Monsters of Rock Cyberpunk Edition, where they are put into groups and they have to choreograph and conceptualize their teams and their band, and just like create this whole like vision for their like team. And I think that's really cool. Everyone, especially last season with season 6, a lot of them were like I think every portion of the fan base was like, why are we not getting a Monsters of Rock challenge? Because Monsters of Rock is like arguably probably the most iconic challenge in all of Dragula. So they do not understand like, why are we not getting a Monsters of Rock challenge for season 6, where we got the like awful like acting like musical challenge from season 6, which was very much like giving like RuPaul's Drag Race type of vibe, which I love Drag Race, but like I feel like, in my opinion, Dragula is trying to pull a little bit, trying to appeal to a lot more also the Drag Race fandom, which I like. When if a lot of fans from Drag Race already like Dragula, why are you trying to appeal to a very much more normative like the normal Drag Race fan, which is just kind of weird a little bit, but hopefully they don't do it that much this season. Alright, now the queens get into teams and we get to see them get ready for the challenge. And before we get started, I want to talk about my makeup. I was like thinking, oh wait, I want to do something like kind of cyberpunky, but I was like, I want to kind of go for like more vampire type of look. So I did, if you guys know, I did very, very, very pale makeup. I just basically mixed like my normal foundation with the P. Louise like white base that I have, and I did kind of like this gray and white type of gray white with some like red, and I had like this like NYX black liquid lipstick that I got for TriCon last year that I haven't used like at all. So I did that, and I put some like a little bit of red lipstick and like some red eyeshadow on top. And just, yeah, I just kind of want to go something a little bit more like vampire-y, a little bit gothy. But yeah, hope you guys enjoy this makeup. And I did like kind of like a very much like I did also like a lot of glitter on here as well, because very Twilight stuff like that, and kind of like a darker, more sharper contour than I usually do. But yeah, so we go on to the challenge and we meet the teams. So the first team is Mech. Like I don't want to say it's like the curse word, but it's Mech. If you guys like are watching the video, it's called Mech. But yeah, it's the team consists of Sigourney as the lead, Abora, Blackberry, Disasterina, and Jade Jolie. This is the biggest group with 5 people. And then next we have Skin Tag, which is the team consisting of JK as the lead, Priscilla and Zavaleta and Cynthia, which is a team of 4, and then Plated Steel, consisting of Dahlia Black as the lead, Even Destruction, Jaharia, and Loris. And then in their makeshift cauldron, they're all like talking about, oh my god, we're doing their makeup in the desert. This episode kind of very much reminded me of like old seasons of Dragula, like season 1, season 2, and maybe like season 2, especially, and season 1, because they both had something to do with like the desert. I think they did some kind of like performance challenge in the desert as well. So that was also really fun. And yeah, it just gave me very much like old Dragula kind of vibes, which is like crazy, like seeing an old Dragula. But it very much reminded me of that, and it was really cool. And then they were talking about like their teams, like especially like with mech. They kind of don't really have that much of a concept when it comes to their team. Very much like just kind of hodgepodge, kind of mixed up kind of deal. And then Plated Steel and Skin Tag are very much more confident with their looks and their performances. And then Cynthia and Blackberry get into it again. Like Cynthia is just like going after Blackberry, and Disasterina kind of put it politely. I love Cynthia, but I feel like Cynthia is taking this like way too far, like taking it way too personally. And I think it's just like calm. Like I understand you're upset, but you have to find a point where it's like you need to like think like just kind of think like oh, am I really getting this butthurt over this? But yeah. And then so now we're actually gonna get onto the challenge. So I'm gonna be actually going one by one, and I'm gonna be putting up like the look. I'm like not gonna focus too much on the look or like the challenge itself, but I'm also gonna be talking about the look as well. But first, we start with the introduction of the Boulet. The Boulets look really cool and like this cyberpunky type of look. It's kind of just very top heavy, where they have the bodysuit from what I remember, and then they have like the boots and like this really cool light up mask. And then we meet the guest judges, which is Kate Siegel, I can't. That last name is very familiar to me. And then Ryan Turek. And then now let's move on to the challenge. So let's start with Abora's team. And so Abora looks really cool. It's kind of giving very much kind of like Adventure Time, like Apocalypse, where they had like all these stuffed animals, this like kind of bald headpiece with like this like point that kind of makes it look like the bird, and they were on like these crazy tall stilts, and like they did really good in this challenge. They were one of the highlights of this challenge. Definitely, they were having fun with the audience, and I really enjoyed their performance. And then next we go on Sigourney. Like Sigourney, I feel like from like the head up was really cool. Like they had this really big hair with like kind of the light up wires on their face, but the rest of the look just was kind of boring. It was cool, like it was kind of like burlesque, and they were like taking off like their skirt and part of their top, like showing off like their their burlesque type of style mixed with like punk rock. But I feel like it was kind of a little bit plain. It was like cool looking, but it wasn't like my favorite. And yeah, it just kind of gave more showgirl than kind of like cyberpunk. And then Blackberry, I feel like Blackberry was kind of my least favorite look of the night. It was very not good. Like they had like, it was just basically like these like wires on their chest with like this really big clunky glove. Like the boots were nice, and like the makeup and the hair was cool, but it was just like half-baked, not really that exciting. And especially they were playing the drums, and it was just very like cumbersome to play, especially with the big hammer. And then next up, Disasterina. It gave very Gemini holograms meets like, yeah, cyberpunk type of look. I liked it. They had like really, they had like the blue, like big spiky hair, the big like spiky chest piece, and like this really like sparkly bodysuit. And I think that was also really cool. I love the makeup. I think probably my favorite look out of all of them, besides maybe Boris. And then next, J. Julie was probably the weakest of the group. They were kind of not very into it. They were doing the guitar, but it was just like jumping around, kind of like swaying around like a white girl, like at a club. And it was just kind of disappointing because like J. Julie is always talked about to be like this crazy performer, but they don't really do that much crazy performing, especially these last two episodes where episode 1 they didn't know the words, and then in episode 2 they had like a mask on so they can really lip sync, but they weren't like making up for it with like a big crazy performance, which is pretty disappointing. And then next up we have JK's group, Skin Tag, and JK was super cool. They started off like with this really huge mohawk. It was like a fabric mohawk. It wasn't like an actual like hair mohawk, but it had like JK. It was like spray painted and it matches their look. They had like this like orange jacket with like these really cool big pants that were also like orange and spray painted, and they had like this really cool makeup. They also kind of had like a muscle like chest suit on, and I thought that was really I thought the whole look was just like really cool, really fun, and it still kind of gave that like very punky kind of look. Not super cyberpunk, but I kind of think it's still like pretty like punky, but not super cyberpunky. But I thought it was still really good. And then next was Priscilla Chambers. I really liked their look. It was very much kind of giving kind of the same thing as like maybe kind of a little bit mix of like Sigourney's. I liked her look. It had like the really big like wiry mohawk and this like really cool kind of black like suit with pants. They also had this really big like ball and chain, spiky ball and chain kind of thing, but they didn't really utilize it. And they also had like this like human face on their like stomach area, and I thought that was kind of cool. But sometimes it kind of faded in the background, but they also like kissed Zavaleta, which I thought was really funny. And then next up we're gonna do Zavaleta. Zavaleta, I feel like the look was cool. It was like kind of like this purpley draped kind of look. I thought it was like a mohawk, but it was kind of like this like bald head with like this like big like antenna type of look, and I thought that was really cool. And then they were also kind of like safe. They had some like cool moments, but like they did like, I think, was it them? No, it was a different one. I was thinking of something else. But I thought they were really cool. And then Cynthia, they did this they were in another like blue look. It was really cool. Had like this like armor and like this like kind of visory helmet, and they also had like this, I think they also had like this like kind of like chainsaw guitar type of look, but I don't think they used it that much either. Same with like Priscilla's look, and they were also playing the drums, and they were also kind of getting into it. But also at some points it was kind of looking like they were playing drums instead of playing the drums, if you know what I mean. And then the final group we have is Plated Steel. And first we have Dahlia Black, which I feel like was kind of gave a little bit of like RoboCop with like a wig. But they also, the picture that I'm using for this, they decided to do the picture in like this like very kind of like close to the head kind of, and that's why I'm saying like RoboCop, because it looks like RoboCop kind of headpiece. And they were kind of also another like very like kind of not all the way there kind of performance. They would like do the performance, but then they would also kind of, after they would be done lip syncing, they would kind of turn around and not really perform as crazy as if they were lip syncing. And then next it was Eva Destruction. And for some of these pictures I do have to blur it out because of YouTube, but they also, it was very much like revealing, but it was like this like a bit more of the desert vibe, very dark, a lot of black, a lot of spikes, and it was just like really cool. They had like this, a lot of their face was covered up, so I didn't really see a lot of their face, but they still gave a lot of expression. So they're they looked cool, and they were doing really well in the drums too. They were probably like the best drummer out of the three groups. And then next up we have Loris, and Loris, it gave very much like kind of like Hot Topic-y punk, and very much kind of like mall punk, but like mixed with like regular punk as well. They had like the big Liberty spikes, the really big pants that are spray painted, the jacket, which was really cool, and the makeup was also really cool. Like the whole outfit was really cool, but their performance was very kind of lackluster. They like had like these big shoulder pieces that were kind of moving around, and they were focusing more on fixing them and kind of like trying to like do a lot more like trying to do a lot more like fixing themselves, not really paying attention to the actual performance. And a lot of the guitar playing, they look like I said, they looks like they were playing guitar instead of playing with the guitar, like playing like just kind of messing around, like, because I feel like they kind of thought like, oh, like we're like just like having fun, like performing, like kind of doing air guitar type of stuff, and then like actually looking like they're playing guitar, which is also kind of confusing to me, because I'm like, why do you guys want them to be playing guitar, or do you want them to like actually be realistic? Which that was kind of confusing to me. And then finally we have Jaharia, which is probably one of the most like blow out the water performances like out of the whole group. They were like really into it, even without being the lead singer. They were like really into it. They were playing the guitar and doing a lot of like performing and like really being with the audience. And their look was really cool too. It kind of gave very much clown punk. They had like this like afro mohawk type of situation, the white clown face, and but it was like the like really big top, like kind of like the skirt, but then like the boots. There was a lot going down, which I don't really think I should complain that much, because they are performing. They are supposed to be like in these really big ball gowns. But I feel like Abora was in like the stilts, like they were still able to like perform and stuff like that. So I feel like they could have gone a little bit bigger with the look and stuff like that, especially for like a lot of like top heavy looks. And overall, the challenge was really cool. I just kind of feel like it was hard to pay attention to some of the like part of the performances, because they were like moving back and forth from teams really quickly. So like I was like, oh, who is in this group and who was in that group, and like which group am I on now, stuff like that. So that was like it was kind of hard to pay attention. And then now we are on to the judging and deliberation. So we start with the Boulet's deliberation, and they first say like they love JK as a lead. Plated Steel is probably the most strong sit-out group out of the three, and they were like the most cohesive. They did also say that they did agree that Dahlia faded into the background a lot. Eva did really have a lot of good command with the drums. They do love Abora. They were also a really big stand on the challenge. They didn't like Jade's performance. They were very like disappointed, because Jade is like a really big performer, and they didn't really perform that great in the challenge. And then judging happens, and they say that they're going to be judging groups, but they are going to be scored individually. So it's going to be like, you'll be judged as groups, but you'll be judging groups, but you'll be scored individually. That's what what I just said. And then, start off, they had Skin Tag. And Skin Tag, they said, had a lot of, like, half-baked concepts. They weren't, like, they didn't follow through a lot with, like, a lot of the, parts of the challenge. They did more higher energy from a couple performers. And, but they did say JK was the big standout of the group. And Skin Tag overall did get, like, pretty mixed critiques. And, they did, for Meg, they did say that they had some, like, I think it was Kate Siegel. Yeah, Kate Siegel. She said that they had, like, pretty high highs and very low lows. They said, like, especially, I had to agree, not a lot of synergy. Like, they had, Blackberry that was, like, super, like, video gamey, and Abora, which was, like, very, kind of, like pastel-y, and then I think it was, like, Ryan said that, Disasterino was very much like, Rick and Morty, and then Sigourney also, which is very much Showgirl, and then Jade was just kind of not there. And so yeah, they were like, they had some, like, really good pieces of performances, but it was, like, not very synergetic. Like, they said, like, definitely that Abora was the big standout of the group, especially when they went into the crowd and were, like, spinning in the stilts. That was, like, really cool. And they said that Abora was definitely one of the big standouts. I'm really happy for Abora, because Abora has, like, been able to, like, show themselves and prove themselves, because they're really, like, powerhouse monster in this competition, and I feel like they're finally being able to do that, being, I will say, basically high for both episodes so far, compared to last season where they were in the bottom for, like, almost the entirety of the competition. And then Plated Steel was basically the big fan favorite of the group. Definitely, they had the most synergy, and with, like, their costumes and their performance, but they did say again that Dahlia was not, like, the most into the performance, and Loris the same way. They were very much like, both of them weren't really doing all that much in performance. And they said that Jaharia was the big standout of the group, that they loved the camera, and they were, like, really interacting with the stage, and even they were, like, asking, like, why didn't you want to be the lead singer? And then Jaharia answered that they really wanted to play with the guitar, and, like, I feel like they would have a lot more fun with the guitar than being the lead singer. And then then some of the ghouls were called safe, and the high ghouls were JK, Jaharia, and Abora, and the low placements were Priscilla, Loris, and Jade. And then we move on to the Cauldron, and Jade and Priscilla go after Loris because they were saying, like, oh, Loris, because Jade, Priscilla, and Loris were in the bottom, they were saying, oh, Loris deserves to be in the bottom because Loris was the weakest of the group. They even said last episode that they didn't, like, they wanted to vote for themselves. And yeah, I kind of definitely agree that it was not a really good thing to do. It was like, don't vote for yourself. Even in the competition when you feel low, you have to show, like, confidence. And, like, they were saying, like, oh, you're not confident enough, and things like that. And it was just like, yeah, no. Like, Laura was like, I am confident. You can't just, like, go after me. And then Sigourney was chiming in saying, like, you can't just attack this girl. And then Loris was talking about Priscilla's look being, like, very cheap PVC jumpsuit. And then Priscilla was like, oh, this is custom. And then Sigourney was like, well, hey, I had to help you fix that costume. Don't go after her when I was the one that had to help you with that costume while you were talking about, like, no thanks, girl, all that stuff. And then we go on to Zavaleta, like, basically giving a truth bomb, but also kind of something we've already kind of already started seeing for the last episode is that Dahlia has been a little bit of a tattletale. Even though I don't like calling people that, they're like purposely trying to get people to leave this, like get kicked out of the competition. We saw it last week with her basically calling like Priscilla and Jade like drunks basically, and now with Dahlia like trying to get Zavaleta in trouble because of her medicine, because she had to take like, I would say the letter is K. You have to look it up for yourself. It's used with horses, and but it's like they were prescribed it in New York. It's like legal, but they're trying to be like, oh teacher, they're talking about using like a certain medicine, like an illegal substance, when it's like Zavaleta was using it as like a mental health medication. And so Dahlia is just really kind of getting on a lot of people's nerves. Like no one really likes them at this point. And then we go on to basically who wins and who gets in the bottom. And the winner is Jaharia. And I definitely agree. It could have either been Jaharia or JK, but I felt like Jaharia really gave a lot more in this challenge compared to JK. And then we see the bottoms are going to be Loris and Jade for Priscilla being safe. And the Boulets call out Jade, but Loris goes down the ghostly gallows. And so Jade is safe, and Loris gets eliminated, which sucks, being the only two, like, season 1 girls getting eliminated back to back. But wait, we get, like, a special, like, behind the scenes thing where, like, one of the Boulets goes into, like, a morgue, and they pull out both Frankie Doom and Loris, and they say, like, oh, we're not done with you yet. So maybe we'll be able to see them again, I'm hoping. But yeah, so that is the end of this episode. Sorry if it was a little bit more mixed up this time around. I tried to keep it as consistent as possible, but I've been sick, so it's been kind of rough doing this. But I wanted to get this video out for you guys as soon as possible. But yeah, so thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you guys think of this episode, if you guys watched it. But yeah, so thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and follow all my socials down in the doobly doo. Without further ado, hope you guys enjoyed this video and hope you guys have a nice and safe day. Bye!